Hey there, my name is Cole Adams, and you are watching the best college basketball podcast out there that covers the entire sport of college basketball, brackets, bubbles, and bid stealers. Now, here are your hosts, Sam Fetterman and Jonathan Lidskin.
Season I'm not asking how you're doing. David Campbell is with us to preview Minnesota. We're going to talk about Minnesota for the first time ever on Brackets, Bubbles, and Bid Stealers, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, ever. We've never mentioned them in any episode before.
David, how are you?
I'm great. Again, college basketball in August. What could be more better than that? And
college basketball in March?
I guess you're right. I mean, maybe in August, talking about college basketball is just the dream. So I will say, Harrison Batnick, listen again. What a guy. What a fan. Always a fan. Love that.
That's actually Hayden Gray.
Who is Hayden Gray? Who is that?
San Diego point guard.
Oh, we've got to kick you off here if you don't know who Hayden Gray is.
I'm sorry, I'm a bit out of things right now when it comes to the UC San Diego basketball roster. I can't say I'm too familiar.
The steals leader last year in college basketball.
There you go.
Yeah. UC San Diego show.
Good program out there.
Yes. Let's talk Minnesota. Let's talk Gophers.
Yeah.
Niko Medved, first-year head coach. This was the guy that was going to get the Minnesota job all along. This was the guy. He's a Minnesota kid. He's went to the University of Minnesota. He's proven that he can be successful at a place that doesn't have a great history. He's the perfect fit for Minnesota. David, what was your reaction when they made that move?
About time. I mean, I would have been happy with him being hired 4 or 5 years ago instead of Ben Johnson. I thought the time was good then. I thought the time's even better now. But the overall mantra and message that I have for Minnesota and just this program is, Ben Johnson was dealt a bad hand. At the end of the day, this program does not care about men's basketball, or the school does not care about the men's basketball program that much. I saw a list not too long ago of highest revenue programs, non-men's basketball and football, and Gopher hockey was number 2 on that list. They care about hockey. They care about that. They care about women's hockey more than they care about men's basketball in this school. And you finally have the AD and Mark Coyle and just this administration kind of taking things a bit more seriously with this program. And like I said, I would have been happy with Niko Medved 4 or 5 years ago before Ben Johnson was hired, and I'm ecstatic with him now. He obviously has a Minnesota tie. Sam, you said it best. This is a guy who knows how to win in programs that they don't expect much and they don't have a lot of great history. He can produce NBA talent. We've seen that multiple times now. He can make the tournament. And at the end of the day, that's all you can ask for at the University of Minnesota.
Yeah, I mean, he went to high school like 15 miles away from the University of Minnesota. Mm-hmm. He was born in Minneapolis. He went to the university. He didn't have to leave Minnesota until 1999. He was 26 years old because his first coaching job in college was at McAllister in St. Paul. Mm-hmm. Shout out Rich Gleasman, the new head coach there, former Dartmouth assistant, and a head coach in Japan for years. Great hire in my eyes, by the way. They're going to win a lot of games. Didn't they have a kid that dropped 30 on Minnesota?
It's Caleb Williams, not the quarterback.
Went to Minnesota.
Not the quarterback. Yeah, Caleb Williams went to Minnesota, did not play a lick, but went to Minnesota, not the quarterback for John Lidskin's former favorite football team. Not that.
All right, let's talk about the players that Niko Medved has. Let's talk about the one that he brought over from Colorado State, and Jalen Crocker-Johnson, who's been one of my favorite players in college basketball for the last 2 seasons. First at Little Rock, last year at Colorado State. The length is kind of what catches your eye. It's the defensive ability that I looked at when he was paired with Nick Clifford. It made a really scary front court wing duo. They don't really have the same wing duo. They don't have a elite defender at the 3, but they will have Crocker-Johnson at the 3-4, maybe a little bit at the 5 to give them that defensive push.
Yeah. I think, when you look at Minnesota, you look in their history in terms of big men, there really hasn't been, I think, a ton of athletic guys. I mean, you've had a ton of talented guys in their own way, whether that was Daniel Oturu, Liam Robbins, all the way maybe Jordan Murphy, Dawson Garcia, obviously the most recent one. But Crocker Johnson, I think, brings a special sense of defense. You mentioned the length, Sam. You're 100% right. I'm really happy that he was kind of the main guy that Nico brought over. I think he's going to anchor this front court. And there's going to be a lot of opportunities all across this roster, but the anchor is kind of what I'm thinking of Jalen Crocker Johnson. I think he's going to be such a important piece for this team. I think we'll definitely see him in the 4, maybe the 5, 2. I'd say floating between those spots. It's going to be weird. It's going to be interesting to see how Nico figures out his rotation, but just an incredible piece.
Lidskin.
Yeah, I'm really interested to see what kind of rotation they play with this front court, because I think it was very clear that they're prioritizing athleticism and length. Like BJ Omat's never been a guy that I think has been like a super efficient offensive player, but he certainly is athletic and is very long on the defensive end. And same goes for Robert Vejola, who is obviously, it was a weird name, right, when they took him, but he played at Fresno and San Jose, so Nico's coached against him a bunch. Like, he knows what he's getting with him. So, yeah, I think they were definitely prioritizing being better on the defensive end in the front court, and it seems like they're probably going to get most of their offensive production from the backcourt.
I think they'll get a lot of offensive production off the wing, too. When you bring in Bobby Durkin and Cade Tyson, you're not doing that because you want them to play defense. Like, those aren't defensive pickups. Those are two guys coming from schools in North Carolina. One of them was very successful last year. One of them was not. And then Dirk, and these are two guys that, Cade Tyson, we know how successful he was in the Missouri Valley. In this system, I think Cade Tyson is an excellent fit. And I think Durkin's kind of the same. I think they bring kind of the same thing. I think Durkin's probably a little bit stronger off the bounce. Tyson's a better shooter. But I don't know how, I don't know when they're going to play both of them. Maybe they want to go small with Crocker Johnson at the 5 and you play both of them. You get a little size and shooting. The defense wouldn't be great in that mix. Crocker Johnson has to cover a lot. And that's kind of what we're saying about the front court pieces. I don't really know how it's going to work, but I think that there's going to be a ton of scoring coming off that wing. I think those two can both average double digits in some world.
Yeah, I completely agree. And when you say Tyson's like the better shooter than Durkin, like that's such a compliment to Tyson, because Durkin was one of the best shooters, with Davidson last year. I mean, he was great. So, and he's got a lot of size. Him, Tyson. You said it yourself, Sam. Both very similar players. Obviously, Durkin originally in Liddy's backyard, Glenbard West, right? Is that right?
Yeah.
Glenbard West, right?
He was part of the Glenbard West 5 that won the state title.
The famous Glenbard West 5,
former Iona commit.
Yeah, this is I think shooting wise, last year the Gophers were, horrendous. I couldn't. Year before they had an NBA player in Cam Christie, but they were dreadful shooting wise team last year. And this year, you definitely emphasized that with Durkin and Tyson. Tyson is special. I think he could really blossom this year in the Nico system. I think he's could be this team's best player. I really do believe that. He was so good at Belmont. Didn't really see much at UNC, but he has found a home here at the U.
Yeah, I think it sucks for Cade that he kind of. It's not his fault, but his junior year was kind of wasted. Because he went back home to play for a team that he grew up near, and he was in a system that really wasn't made for him. And like Sam, I think this was something that we talked about, that what Casey Alexander does at Belmont was kind of tailor made for him. They run great stuff. They got him open a ton. He didn't have to do a ton in terms of playmaking with the ball in his hands. He could just be a shooter/scorer. And now he goes back to a system where I think he can be in that role again. And even playing, with Durkin or whichever one comes off the bench, whether they decide to start both, I think that's a very similar structure with the motion offense that they run. He's going to have a ton of good looks from 3. And he's got a point guard, frankly, who I'm assuming we'll talk about in a second, who I think is a really good facilitator and is going to set him and Durkin up.
And I want to talk about the backcourt too, with the rest of this group. Langston Reynolds coming in from Northern Colorado, Chancey Willis, Isaac Asuma. Chance Stevens, Kai Shinholster, the freshman from Penn Charter in Philadelphia. Reynolds is kind of the name that is the most intriguing for me because we've seen the success of Northern Colorado guys. This was and by the way, with Northern Colorado guys, it's not just Connect St. Thomas, it's DeJour Reeves too. And Langston Reynolds was kind of their guy last year. He was what? Let me find the numbers. 16 a game, 3.5 assists.
Yeah.
Shot 60%
gets to the
of the
line a
rim.
lot.
What'd you say?
Gets to the line a lot.
Yeah, I kind of said the same thing about Dylan Darling, where I'm not so sure how the getting to the line translates between the Big Sky and the power leagues.
Mm-hmm.
The Big Ten specifically has kind of the officiating. I think the Big Ten probably has the most distinct whistle and game flow of any of the power conferences, even though there's no such thing as Big Ten refs, SEC refs in college basketball. I do think Big Ten games are called the most distinctly. I think everyone would agree with that based on watching college basketball. Those games are much different from what an SEC game, what a Big East game, what a former Pac-12 game looks like. But I think Langston Reynolds is certainly an important piece for this team. What's the ceiling and what's the expectation for him?
That's a great question. I think that he'll have most of the keys to the offense, scoring wise. I think the point guard that Liddy was hinting at earlier was Isaac Osama. This is a guy who returns, and I think he's more of the facilitator. Langston Reynolds, more of the scorer. I don't want to put him in the same category as a Dalton Connect because Connect was a National Player of the Year contender. I'm not expecting that. But Reynolds is a guy who averaged 16 at Northern Colorado. He was a first-team All-Big Sky guy. It's so tough to compare guards in this conference when you have, obviously, Braden Smith, best point guard in the league, but so much more than just him, too. But I think he could definitely average double digits easily. I think he's going to shoot at a high clip. Liddy said he gets to the free throw line well. He'll continue to do that. I think he is just along with Cade. I think the offensive potential with those guys is endless. It's so hard to put I'll put a prediction out there already, but I think he could be really special.
Jonathan, what do you like about Langston Reynolds?
I think they needed another guy that could not only facilitate, because you already had Asuma, but you needed another guy that could create shots, and he does that. Like I don't think of Durkin or Tyson as guys that are going to make moves on the perimeter to create their own shot or even really set up teammates. I think Reynolds does that, and he was on a team at Northern Colorado that they weren't just like a good Big South team. Big Sky team. They finished 125th in KenPom. So it's like they had a really good year. I think, obviously the transition to the Big Ten is something to monitor, but I think, he's probably not going to have like a 24% usage rate again because they do have Isaac Asuma. They have another guard in Chansey Willis who they brought in. They have other guys that can score as well. So it's just, I think with a lesser role, like he should be just fine here.
And I really like Chansey Willis. Like I don't know how good he's going to be, but I think he'll play a lot. Like Asuma's not going to be the only point guard in the mix here. Chansey Willis was a 17-6 guy at Western Michigan. He was the only guy on that team that had a positive Evan Mia rating, which, like, again, take it for what it's worth, but that is notable.
Yeah, they were bad.
Another guy who can really a decent finisher at the rim, despite being a point guard and being a little undersized. Like he had good positional size for the MAC. Positional size for the Big Ten is a little worse at 6'2", but that's decent enough. Synergy has him listed at 6 foot flat, but Burner Ball has him listed at 6'2". We'll figure that out eventually when he gets on the court. But I think Willis's game will translate because it's so focused on the ability to drive to play make, and I think that's something that in the Big Ten is valuable.
Yeah,
I mean, yeah. The guard rotation, all of them are going to be kind of special in their own way, is what I'd say. Obviously,
You've now
Osmo's the
called
returner.
all
But,
of them special.
I mean, that's why I think they're all going to be, if it works in Nico's system, we've seen Nico's system with guards. A lot of guards can be successful in different situations. And I think all of them have their own unique traits. I think Osmo's defense is really good. I think he showed a lot of defensive flashes last year. But I think that three-headed monster, Willis, Osama, Reynolds, that's the key. Just like in the front court, it's, with JCJ, Omot, and further on.
I don't want to get out of this podcast without talking about Nehemiah Turner, because I think Nehemiah Turner is good. Like, I think he's legitimately really good.
He's big. That's a fact.
He was so good down the stretch for Central Arkansas. Like, they just started kind of feeding him the ball, and he went to work. Like, first half of the season, he was kind of like there working around. Then he got into the starting lineup, and they just started feeding him the ball. And like, perfect backup big in the Big Ten, because he'll grab the ball with his back to the basket, and he will find a way to score. Like, I don't know how, but he's gonna find a way to score. And he'll grab rebounds. He's got some vision. I don't think he's gonna take as many shots as he was taking down the stretch, but like, he comes into a game, he'll give you 6 points in like 3.5, 4, 5, 6 minutes, maybe 8 minutes, and then he'll come out of the game, he'll give you 0 points for the next 3 minutes he's in, but like, he'll average 6 and 4 in like 12, 15 minutes. And that's really good for what you need out of the backup big.
He had 37, 11, and 4, and 3 steals, and two blocks in the first round of the ASUN tournament against Stetson.
Yeah, that was like the America knows who Nehemiah Turner is.
Well, it was like one of the first conference tournaments.
Yeah, that was like the first day of conference tournament.
Yeah, so like everyone, like people knew what was going on, and like, he did it on 13 of 15 from the field and 11 of 12 from the free throw line. Like, that's insane.
That game pissed me off because I picked Stetson. But I was watching it. Yeah, exactly. I picked Stetson and I was like, well, that was a waste. But I was saying this before. He's big. I mean, he's 265. He looks like he's a huge guy, and he's 6'10". At least that's what he's listed as. But again, you never really know. But he's also pretty raw. He's still pretty young, and I think development wise, maybe Nehemiah Turner isn't the guy this year to lead this front court, but there really isn't much of a you can see the growth in a couple of years. JCJ has another year. I think Durkin has another year. Awesome, obviously the couple. I think Willis has another year. All those are true. I'm looking through it right now.
You got to keep him.
Exactly, and like that's obviously in this day and age. But all these guys, I think you can put them into a system now. Ideally, you keep them all. Ideally, but
you'll probably keep maybe 2 of them.
Just it's unfortunately the case with Gopher basketball. We saw a couple years ago. You had an amazing team, and it got stripped away.
If you look at I think if you go look at Nico's like hit rate on like keeping players, it's probably well above like what the average coach is doing in college basketball. Like, he's gotten some good players to stick around at Colorado State in the portal era.
All right, Jonathan, anything else we want to add before we go?
I would just like to say that, like, this roster probably doesn't look, super eye-opening on paper, but like, I think you have to add in the fact that like they're going to be one of the best in-game coach teams in the conference. And like, yeah, it's really tough to go win on the road in the Big Ten. It's tough to win in the Big Ten, period. But I think that like getting off to a hot start to start the season is actually more important for this team than maybe anyone else in the Big Ten, just because like you need like the home court advantage in conference play in the Big Ten, and like people need a reason to go to Minnesota basketball games during hockey season.
And unfortunately, the non-conference schedule is pretty disappointing for yet another year in a row. It's so funny that Minnesota played the same MT as Florida did last year, which I always just laugh about because like everyone dogged them a Minnesota non-con. But I mean, I can't think of their biggest non-con
they lost to Wichita
games.
State on Thanksgiving in one of the dumbest games of the season.
I fell to my knees at my great aunt's place, and then I had to play the turkey afterwards.
Wasn't there a buzzer beater?
No, there was an almost buzzer beater.
There was a shot that went like halfway down and out.
And then do you
It
remember
was
the
some white
score
guy.
of-
Who was the white guy last year that played for the Gophers? It was terrible.
Oh,
Not Luke Lowy. It's not him, but that guy sucked too. I can't think of his name.
It was Rigsby, wasn't it?
It was Rigsby. It was
yeah, Brennan Rigsby.
Oh, that's awesome.
Does Parker Fox currently have 2 non-torn ACLs?
To my
the
knowledge,
Rick guy actually wasn't bad, but
I'm just wondering if Parker Fox has 2 non-torn ACLs at the moment.
Minnesota plays San Francisco at the Pentagon, and I'm going to be honest, they're not going to win that game. They're not going to win that game. But they do play Missouri.
San Francisco.
They do play Mizzou. They do play Mizzou in Columbia.
I was about to mention
Finally,
that.
the return. Yeah, finally the return game. The Dennis Gates versus Armand Gates, because Armand Gates is an assistant.
All right.
Real quick before we go, I thought it was hilarious, David, that like people didn't know that Dennis Gates had a brother, including myself, until like last year. Sam, are you flapping or airplaning?
I'm airplaning because the Red Sox have 2 on and 1 out in the 9th.
Okay.
It's quick.
All right, Jonathan, you want to take us home?
Yeah, if you came to hear about Tyler Self and where he's working, you came to the right place. If you came to not hear about Richard Pitino, because we didn't talk about him on the air, you came to the right place. And if you came to hear about the latest happenings with Caleb Grill, who only played a little bit the last time Mizzou played Minnesota, you came to the right place. This has been Season 6, Episode 33 of Brackets, Bubbles, and Bid Stealers, and we'll see you next time.